Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Roberts, Tribeca Trade Group, and thank you for joining me for the live stream today on Tuesday. After market video today for Tuesday. Tomorrow will be the Fed meeting, so you'll have to tune in to or make sure that you're subscribed to our Substack to be able to view that. So why don't we talk about that first in today's video, and then we'll talk about the price action for today. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So yes, tomorrow, that's I don't know if it's the main event for this week, because and the NVIDIA event certainly has garnered a lot of attention. But in terms of what we're going to get for tomorrow, there's very little chance that there's going to be any movement tomorrow in terms of cut or hike tomorrow out of for the Fed meeting. Remember, the announcement is 2 o'clock tomorrow, and then the press conference, which I think is going to be more interesting, will be at 2:30. The press conferences have been more interesting because they haven't really raised interest rates now in a number of months. But really, I think what everybody is looking to kind of learn a little bit, and remember, it's not just me or your buddy who's watching the Fed event. It's institutions, and institutions make decisions based off of this information, and they do their buying and selling, and of course that moves the market. So what will we be looking to learn? And I think if we take a step back and review what we saw last week, which was the PPI came in higher than expected, the CPI came in higher than expected, right? Is that going to change the Fed's view at all? I could even argue here, and I've done that a few times since we got that information last week, is whether or not we're actually due for another rate hike rather than cut. So I think that's what the market's looking for. I don't think that if the market, so I'll give you my viewpoint. If they don't cut interest rates at all this year, I think the market will be fine for the most part until we get to the election, right? Because we are in an election year, and right now the current administration is doing everything that they can to basically stay in office, which includes increasing federal deficits and increasing federal spending, right? And that goes hand. You have to kind of measure these things. It's not just monetary policy, but it's fiscal policy, right? So even if the Fed stands pat, doesn't do anything, even though right now there's a 56% chance that they're going to cut interest rates in June. Again, we don't know what the information that we're going to get over the next couple months, so that could change things. So bottom line, I think it's important to kind of note if Powell changes his mind or gets away from the data dependent or makes a decision based on some type of decision. So that's what we'll be listening for tomorrow. All right, so that said, right, and if we kind of look at the what we've been doing this week. So first of all, just looking at this daily chart of the S&P, it's really been kind of a grind of the last couple of weeks. And it's kind of interesting. I had CNBC on just a minute ago, and they were saying, "Hey, did we get new highs today?" And I'm like, "New highs? Wait a minute!" And we're really not that far from new highs, and it's kind of crazy because while the price action has been a little bit difficult to kind of trade because it's basically unless you're really buying the dip and selling the rip, that's been the best strategy over the last week and a half, I would say 2 weeks. But other than that, we really haven't gone anywhere. We touched the new high back on on March 8th and kind of got rejected there. We tried again and didn't really go too far, but we're not breaking down here either. Even though we saw a little bit of a deterioration in the breadth towards the end of last week, the quadruple witching week, right? The breadth has not been bad so far this week, and we're kind of just hanging in here, right? And we're finding every time price finds this 20-day moving average, for now, we're holding in there. And you could also see this when we look at the 1-hour chart, the kind of range. This will be a little bit better for illustration purposes, is, just look, it's sideways, and selling the rip up here has worked well for people. if you're playing that game, right? And that's kind of the adjustments to make, that you need to be making for a range-bound market in order to be making money in this market. If you're chasing strength in this market, it's not going very well for you in the overall market. Now, we'll talk about what's performing well in just a second in terms of individual names and sectors and so forth. But for the overall market, selling the rip and buying this dip has worked well for scalping purposes. So it's turned into a much more of a scalpers type market. Notice how well the bottom of value held support last week and this week so far. Even though it's not as dramatic as last week, it's been a little bit of a slower moving market, but we're still right inside that value area. We almost completed the 80% rule. I kind of think that that's close enough. That's the S&P. The Qs have been a little bit messier. They are, they did make it back inside the value area, but they kind of slipped below the last 2 weeks. So they've been kind of in a little bit more of a downward bias here. Here's your high here, lower high, lower high, lower high. So we're still in this pattern of making lower highs right now. So we've got, I would say right now, and again, this is just looking at these last couple weeks, so don't get excited. But for the last couple weeks, there's been a little bit of relative weakness, right? And then IWM, which was kind of interesting today, even though that has been more of a trajectory down since we took out this virgin point of control over here. That actually performed well today. So if you go back to our spreadsheet here for just a second, and you can see for the day, again, it's just, I was tweeting out a joke earlier about just round and round we go. Today it was the small caps that had the strength, and the micro caps were up 1.8% from the open. So just kind of interesting to see that the small caps actually led after, lagging a little bit last week. And, the VIX is down a little bit, maybe some short covering fueled that a little bit. Sometimes institutions will do that. They'll get kind of a little bit more comfortable going into that meeting tomorrow. So they'll actually take off some longs and they'll take off some shorts, right? And that could cause some things, taking off the short trades can cause things to kind of go up a little bit. So you could kind of see from, the green areas here. And again, I have this sorted by what moved from the open today. If you listen to my video yesterday, it was much of a fade type trade. Most things opened around their highs or got to the highs around 10 o'clock in the morning and then sold off for the day. So again, that was more of like the selling the rip type day yesterday. Today, the energy names were very strong once again. Crude continues to kind of push higher. Didn't close on the absolute highs of the day, but still quite strong. But there was some other areas. So no doubt when you look at the three ETFs that I look at, OIH up 2.2% for the day, XOP and XLE was down here up 1.1%, right? And if you look too, I found, we're starting to see some of those smaller cap names come into play here. Usually I think the first thing that we saw was like XLE, which is the bigger names, but now we're seeing, XOP, which is the equally weighted energy ETF, exploration and production. And you can see this is trending quite nicely at this point. So, even these little inside red candles have been buying opportunities since we've started to break out of the value area for the year, which you can see is all the way back into here around this 139 level. So this has been trending quite nicely. And I mentioned small cap names. For example, here's a small cap name, RIG, right? This is a $6 stock, but you could see what's happening here. You got a nice break into the value area, maybe pushing to the 623 virgin point of control. Also, you could see the bullish 80% rule is now triggered on this on the break into the value area. So that's where there's been where the majority of the strength was today, but also things like the home builders, right? We had housing numbers that were not bad today. They beat expectations, and that's been a group that's continuing to act pretty well. Here's what the home building ETF looks like, right? It kind of came into the support support and has been holding, right? And that's been a lot of names that's been doing that. And my favorite in the group has been Builder. It looks very similar to that. Notice it found support. So again, this is more of a market right now where you can begin to kind of pick at names as they come into that support area, and as long as they bounce at that support area. Builder's one name. Another name that has been very strong, which is a building type name, which is this Modine Manufacturing. Again, strong earnings name, came right into the top of value, and nice bounce, and is testing those highs. I mentioned this over the weekend when I tweeted that chart out. Another one too. Again, some of these names, sorry to say, they're not the most exciting names, but this is a roofing name, BECN. This is not the first time that I've covered this name. I think I covered this name about a week ago, but they also make, housing supplies too. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with that breakout. I mean, that's a nice little breakout of like a cup pattern, maybe bigger type of cup and handle type pattern, but that's one heck of a break higher, and a real nice looking chart. Sometimes it helps, like if these are not your names, I get it. Some people get very frustrated when they're only looking at a few names and they don't, they lose momentum and they become to act differently. I mean, sometimes it helps just to cover up the symbol, right? And say, okay, look at this group of names. They've got the momentum for now, right? So the housing names have been acting really well. Again, that's what I try to do. I don't really care personally if it's, the same names. It's nice to make a lot of money and to get comfortable in a couple of names. And we can talk a little bit about NVIDIA, which to me is the classic buy the rumor, sell the news. But there's nothing wrong with this pattern here. You just have to kind of be patient, right? And the market likes when you're patient, right? Patient traders get rewarded. Remember, just to kind of put things in perspective, right? This name did go sideways for what's like 4 or 5 months, right? And then broke out. So, right now, to me, it looks like it's in some type of a consolidation pattern. Maybe it breaks this, but we've got levels to watch, right? And for now, it really helps to kind of look at the 1 hour, chart, right? To kind of give you a sense of what's going on. But this just means it's consolidating, right? And it's hitting some resistance, getting rejected. It's not falling apart either. It found support today at the bottom of value, but it didn't want to break out either, right? So again, it's in a consolidation area right now. Would I turn my back on this name? No. What I would do is set alerts. And if you're really good at scalping, as I talked about with the S&P, you can kind of do that with some trades too. I think a lot of the Magnificent Seven names too, right? You can scalp those names too into support. They're just not doing anything great. They're not, once they get to the top of like the range, they're stalling, right? But that's okay, because there's other areas that are doing well. I'm in some Microsoft right now, but I'm barely even like, I'm looking at it, but I'm not, it's just such a slow mover. I added this name I looked at this name in the middle of last week when it broke, and I'm like, that's interesting, right? Tech is kind of a little bit out of favor, but it broke the value area, and I kind of picked it up once it kind of checked back. But overall, it just looks like it's slow and it's in consolidation. So, this is more of like a buy and hold as long as it stays above 412. But I just don't expect it to kind of run as much as some of the other areas in the market right now. But again, you can kind of set a downside alert on it and forget it because it's not doing much. For the time being. A couple other names in this space that I'm watching. Of course, I think it's interesting, even though I have no position on right now in this SMCI, other than I took a small option trade in this thing today. Why did I do that? Because this name was down how much today? Like 7-8%. And so it took out a 1 hour VPOC. Now it could be just consolidating here, right? It could be putting in a bear flag before it drops to the next level. But I'm watching this virgin point of control, which is right around 869, and we'll see if it can rebound a little bit. But same thing, it just looks like it's lost its oomph for now. Again, not a problem. Let it get forgotten about for now. and you might see buyers come back in. But again, patience is key. It's also a big, this is a no-no for me in a stock that's been in an uptrend for a while. You get the break of the 50-day moving average. But it's fine. This is not the overall market. And that's what we've been saying for the last week or two, is just that there's other areas right now that are doing a little bit better. All right. So we talked a little bit about the builders. One area that impressed me today was a couple of the restaurant names. This is Wingstop. So again, this is more or less what we're seeing with some of these growth names, right? A test and a hold, right? But certainly it's lost its, it lost its upside trend, and now is trying to back and fill a little bit. Also on the 1 hour chart, I think it also found some support there at the Virgin point of control. A name that's been acting better the last couple of weeks is Kava. I would watch the 65.33 level in Kava. I was impressed with this name today. Not in it, but impressed with it. Because it retook its 5-period moving average. So maybe it wants to continue on with its trend. For now, maybe use that 5-period moving average, considering it's decently above the value area. How about what's this other name? I just tweeted it out. This sushi name broke out too, so I don't have to review that one because I tweeted it out. Also, the industrial space. We know that space has been super strong. Look at GE, right? GE making another nice move after a little bit of consolidation. Notice what happened here. It got ahead of itself, right? That's an ugly looking candle, but it just settled back in and really didn't lose its trend, right? And just continues to kind of roll higher. Another name which I actually added along in this one. I've been watching this name since it reported earnings. It kind of checked back, but this is another, a much better aviation name in my opinion, than the one that keeps having troubles and having things fall off it. I'd like the little tiny dip in this one today. Also, I'm watching a couple other industrial names, United Rentals. Again, slower moving, right? But found the top of value, held, and is starting to work its way back higher. Another one too that I know some people watch because they saw some like a call spread trade last week, but Carrier also strong. Again, it kind of goes with that BECN, right? They make air conditioning units and that type of thing. Another strong name there. I was going to cover just a few other names. So you could see, again, I'm happy to share a little bit of like how we develop our watch list, right? You could see that there's several names that have triggered here. TDW, which I didn't take this trade, but has acted very well. That's been one of the stars in the energy space. Also a name that we put on that I mentioned, the MOD, United Rentals, CMI, which has been a transport name. DraftKings still looks interesting to me. Again, this might be a little bit harder to get this trade to work, but it has the catalyst of March Madness and also some of the other sporting events, playoffs that will be going on. A couple other names that we talked about. Builder, a couple of trades that have been working for me. I put on CEG yesterday, right? So energy, nuclear power, that name acted very well on the kind of dipped in almost to the 20-day moving average, retook its 5-period moving average. Also, another name that we did see a little bit of call activity in yesterday, which is coal, which has really gotten beaten up. So I'm just looking for a retracement move, but this acted really well. This is nice bullish engulfing candle, starting to kind of climb away from that Virgin point of control takeout, which we can often see reversals from there. All right, so that's a couple names. I'm also watching Oracle. Right, so again, even though I think this group is a little bit more difficult right now, it did break through it's right at its 1-hour value area. So I would watch this 129.16 level to see if it can break the range. It's close. It is close, right? And even Lamb Weston, right, which is a consumer staple type name, right? These consumer staple names have been acting fairly well. right? Nothing wrong with playing one of these for a trade. Again, you don't have to get married to Lamb Weston, right? But look, you got about to move up to this VPOC 2.6%. Also, the top of the value area is up another couple percent, and that's at 108.50. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. We will also be doing a webinar tomorrow, just a little bit more in detail about how to trade with the MarketWebs. I know a lot of you have signed up for a 15-day trial and have taken advantage of getting involved in the trading view indicator that you can put on your screen. So we're going to be taking questions and answers tomorrow and just going through a little bit more details about how you can trade on multiple time frames. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.